All right, and we are live. Welcome back to another episode, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm doing some tweaks right now. I'm trying to get this to stream vertical on another platform as well. I'm not sure if it's working, but technical as it goes. All right, so tonight's show we're doing the 185th installment of the Unplugged Alpha podcast series. If you're new, I need more light in here. It's a little dark. If you're newer to the channel, guys, make sure you hit subscribe and like the video. Helps me out a ton with the algorithms. And this little project, I call it little, but it's been going on for 185 episodes. Little something I started 5 years ago when I released my first book, The Unplugged Alpha, which followed up with a second edition update. And we are on volume 2 now, which is The Top Shelf Man, which you can just see over my shoulder here on the shelf. And that is a book there. You can now get it on Amazon. For those of you that have been asking, the Audible version, I still need to record it. Very busy right now. Got a lot on my plate, but I will definitely get it done soon and aim to get it for you on Audible by January. So it won't be too long. Let me just see if this is streaming here to where they said it would. I don't think it is. There you go. Let's close that window because that's how these situations work. You are live, it says. Okay, cool. I've got the chapter notes here in front of me, but I'm going to go off the beaten path a little bit with this one. Trying to aim to do about a 2-hour show for you guys tonight. We'll use the second half of the show for call-ins and Q&A. So if you have questions, please, by all means, you'll be able to click a link that'll drop in the live chat, and you can participate in some open Q&A. You can bring anything to the table you want. Another way to get my attention is if you super chat. Don't do it at the end of the show. I had a super chat that showed up at the end of last week's show, and I apologize to the viewer that did that, but it popped up in my feed after we went off the air. So, if you want to get my attention on something, then just pop it up there in the super chat and I'll certainly take care of it for you. I got my eyes on it today. So let's talk about hypergamy. I got a bunch of different titles on this one for my crew, for my team. And hypergamy is one of those weird things. Nobody pronounces it right. I pronounced it wrong at one point. Hypergamy. We pronounce it wrong. We don't really understand what it is. We hear different versions of what it is. And it is what it is. But it's a puzzle with many, many pieces. And that section of my book, I think it's the title of the section, if I'm not mistaken, is Hypergamy, Puzzle with 1,000 Pieces. Yes, I am correct. And it really truly is, because anytime you think it just boils down to something simple like, oh, just be her best option, bro, then somebody else will come along and go, but wait, what about Tom Brady? What about Kaká? I don't know if I'm pronouncing Kaká's name correctly, but he's a Brazilian footballer, Ricardo. Kaká seems to be his nickname. And I've got some information for you on that, what I think about what happened in that situation in his marriage. I also wrote about Tom Brady and Giselle in my book, so I'm going to cover that as well in this podcast, because I'm often challenged with, ideas around, well, why did Tom Brady's wife leave? If he would technically be her hypergamous best option, why did Kaká's wife, Caroline, get bored of him and want to untie the knot and go back to Brazil after they had a couple kids? So I'm gonna definitely deal with the Tom Brady one, because I did a lot of research on it. I just spent some time on this Kaká one. It's funny saying Kaká over and over again, but anyway, and I think I can get to the bottom of why that knot untied, because again, you can't just say, be your hypergamous best option, just leave it at that and not understand the mechanics behind it all. What I'm trying to do here with these shows, guys, is get you to a place where I basically brainwash you into thinking for yourself. One of the things that I've heard some of the smartest guys do when they come across my content is they say something like, you know, what would Rich do in this type of situation? And they sort of analyze it from that perspective. And I had guys who are like, oh, let's create AI prompts, and, you know, they can download an app. And it's like, I'm not really about that. Set on my microphone. Let's get rid of that. But kind of going through these exercises and having these interesting and sometimes difficult conversations about what goes on in the sexual marketplace and what creates attraction, what contributes to retention, and, you know, of course, what also, you know, contributes to the headaches and problems that plague most men today, because they don't understand what women are and what they're capable of, and why they respond to things in certain ways and fashions and forms. So let's get into it without any further ado here. So let's talk about some of the requirements that there's really two main ones that women want to fulfill when it comes to long-term and short-term dating, because it falls into one of those two categories. And then these two categories modify depending on her age, depending on what she did at certain ages, and also depending on that time of the month for her, which I'll explain in this video. So let's start with the basics first, short-term versus long-term, and then the overlaps between that. Short-term is very straightforward. Let's take you to an example of a short-term mating strategy, which is essentially what we saw in a video over here that I shared on socials today. So let's share screen, put this up over here. And so apparently these are some streamers. So I'll set some frame around this so you kind of understand what's all going on here. Back up, pause.
You're cute. Oh.
Pause. It's not cooperating.
We're doing a live stream, but I think you're cute. What's your name?
Thank you. I'm Sarah.
Come on.
How old are you?
26.
Okay.
All right, let's try this. Not cooperating at all today. That's weird. Okay, well, we can kill the audio. You know what? It's not letting me pause it to start. So what I'll do is I'll just kill the audio and I'll just drag the bar back. That seems to be the only way to get it done. StreamYard is not cooperating very well today. They've done some updates to their app, so it's doing some weird things lately. Anyway, so while this is loading, and I kind of explained, you know, what's all happening here, we got a bit of an entourage, and this is what short-term typically looks like. You've got a younger gal, a younger guy, and of course he's got his entourage here to the left of us on the screen. Can I go full screen on this? Make it a little bit bigger. There you go. Let's kill the comments on the screen for a minute while we'll deal with this. And he's just kind of going around Miami doing some pickup. I've never seen this dude before. I know who this guy is. He's like this kind of geeky streamer, and he's kind of been hit hard lately with, you know, some of the red pill dudes. Like they've been making fun of him because of what's been going on in his life. You know, we'll just say that. But looks like we got security behind him and these two guys, and they're going about life. So let's have a listen here and see what happens.
Sounds cute.
Short term here.
It's okay. You're cute. Oh. We're doing a live stream, but I think you're cute. What's your name?
Thank you. I'm Sarah.
How old are you?
26.
Okay. How old do you think I am?
25.
Right on. Good guess.
Yeah?
Yeah. What are you doing here?
Just vacationing, having fun.
I like the glitter. Are you a lesbian or something?
I mean, I go both ways.
Really? What's better, guys or girls?
Depends on the person.
No, that's fucking retarded. Why are you a lesbian? What are you doing with yourself?
Why are you straight? What are you doing with yourself?
Well, I mean, you're cute, and I'm, you know, trying to have fun with you. Let's do it.
Okay.
What's your number? That. You want to hang out tonight?
You open to it.
All right, let's do it.
What are you? Yeah.
Watch UFC? Fuck it. Maybe get a little crazy? Oh, wait, fuck, I forgot to put my number. All right. Sounds good. I'll see you tonight.
As she walks away, waving goodbye, shaking it.
Easy. What? My turn. Yeah, you're up.
My turn. So you called her retarded to her face and she still wanted to fuck you.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Bro, they don't care.
All right, so let's pull that out of the screen. So that's just your typical example of short-term mating strategy and how it usually goes. That's par for the course, right? She's hot, he's hot, they're both young, they're ready to go, they're out for the night, she's visiting. He's not even nice to her, he just basically negs her. Negs her is it's like a pickup artist strategy. Neil Strauss talked about it a lot in his book, The Game. If you haven't read The Game, it's a really interesting read. You should definitely check it out. The audiobook version's just perfect. Calls her names, calls her retarded, asks if she's a lesbian, and then basically just throws his number in her phone. I wouldn't be surprised if they hooked up that night. That's typical for a lot of women. The vast majority of cases, if they're single in their 20s and they're out on a night on the town. That's just an example of alpha seed, alpha fucks, whatever it is you want to call it. It is what it is. Short-term requirements. She doesn't care about what he does for a living. Does he have a degree? What kind of car does he drive? Do you have your own place? None of that matters. All that matters is she's there, he's there, they're both available, and they find each other attractive. She's given strong indicators of interest to him in that video. And I'm going to repeat this again. The key to all of this when it comes to women, guys, getting what you want out of long-term relationships is being as handsome as you can possibly be and being as valuable as you can possibly be. That matters more when you get closer to my age. When you're a younger guy, just being hot matters. Just being a handsome guy. You could be broke. Just being a handsome guy matters. Now, in this example, he's demonstrating high value because he's walking into this scenario with an entourage. He's got a security guard. He's got the geeky guy with him. He's got the camera guy with him. So there's several people with him supporting his pickup mission. And it went very well for him, as you saw. That's typical. And he's a good looking guy. He's tall, got great hair, in good shape. You could see he wasn't fat. He had some nice arms on him. In my first book, I covered in a chapter, the title of the chapter is Women's Rules, who they make them for and who they break them for. And women will make and break rules depending on how they assess men. When they assess them to be somebody that they're interested in, maybe for a longer term strategy, for resource and provisioning, they'll make them wait, usually longer. If it's got nothing to do with long term, he just got out of jail, or he just walked around the corner of Miami Street and ran into a girl and said, like your glitter, are you a lesbian? And then they just kind of like go from those points. Doesn't matter. She's not interested in what his career is, how many followers he has on social media. Does he have a car? What kind of car is it? So on and so forth. You get the idea. We'll get into a little bit more of that, but they won't make guys on short-term basis jump through hoops. They just don't. And the interesting thing about this, there's no one book that actually covers the details and the nuances of women's hypergamous nature. You got to read the evolutionary psychology books. You got to read books like Why Women Have Sex, the stuff from David Buss Labs, Alpha God. You got to read Sperm Wars. Sperm Wars is a wild book. If you want to read a wild book that really breaks down women's innate sexual strategy when it comes to what happens in the reproductive tract, Sperm Wars is crazy. Robin Baker is the author of that book. I think I'm not even going to put it up on the screen because I don't need to break it down for you, but it's going to black pill you. I'm going to warn you right now. It's going to kind of black pill you. So I won't get into that part because I'm trying to be as positive and offer some actionable advice here. As we kind of move into the summary on the longer term requirements, it's really, really interesting to understand that there's going to be a lot more requirements presented to you when she gets to that stage of her life. A woman could be in her short-term stage in her 20s. She could also be in her short-term stage at 38 when she just got divorced. Okay. Maybe she got married early, had her 2.1 kids, gets divorced at 38 with a couple of kids, 7 and 10 or something like that, and then hits the road running on the sexual marketplace. That could be her promiscuity phase in her late 30s because she missed it in her youth. And then women will untie the knot and think they can hit the road running and, try it all over again. And they're looking for short-term requirements. This is where they bang the guys in a nightclub. This is where they bang the coworkers, even as adult women in their 30s or 40s or 50s, sort of thing. So these requirements move depending on where she is in her life, right? Like what epoch is she at? But for most women, for most chicks today, most of their party years are dispensed in their 20s, definitely their early 20s, up to the late 20s. By the time they get close to 30, then they start to hit like a bit of an epiphany phase. They look around. My cousins are having kids. My sisters, they're getting married. All my friends are starting to get engaged and get married. And then they start to get serious and they start looking for longer term requirements. And longer term requirements are incredibly long and listed in specific detail. They will get into all kinds of questions here. What's my question list here for me? Go. Okay, here we are. What do you do for a living? Where do you live? What kind of car do you have? What are your hobbies? Do you like children? Do you have any children? Were you married before? Do you smoke? Do you drink? And so on and so on. These sorts of questionings, these sorts of interrogation moments, they just don't exist in the shorter term phase. They only exist in the longer term requirement phase. It's a very, very different scenario, and it changes and it evolves as time goes on for them, depending where they're at. That's just how it is. Now, when it comes to getting right, and they've hit that epiphany, and they're looking to form family, he doesn't need to be devilishly handsome. He doesn't need to tick off the hot dude boxes as they existed in the youth. That might have already been experienced. That might have already been done. That might have already happened for her at that point in time. What she's looking for is, does this guy have good enough genes? Is this guy going to be able to provide for a family? Am I going to be able to nest in his house? Is this somebody that can provide for the kids? Is it like, are my kids at least going to look half decent, or are they going to look ugly? These are the sorts of things that they're thinking about at that phase of their life. So the longer term requirements come with a bit of a waiting phase for them, a delay. I have rules. I like to set rules. We got to wait 6, 8 dates, maybe 3 months or something like that. But they do exist, and then they show up in such a way that it really alters the dynamics or the way that relationship sort of evolves on both the sides of the equation, by the way. He has a very, very different experience. So I've got a couple of bookmarks over here. Let's deal with, this is a good example of one over here, and you've probably seen me talk about these before. Share screen. So we have a guy complaining on a Reddit forum, Ask Men's Advice. And I'll just read it out in case you can't see this on your screen right now. But the title says, why would my girlfriend wait 1 year to have sex with me, but then do it with random guys in college she just met? My sister told me to have some self-respect and leave the relationship. Talking about dignity here. Isn't that interesting from his sister? So this guy's 26, been dating his girlfriend who's also 26 for 4 years. Things have generally been good. We didn't have sex the first year because she said she wanted to build emotional intimacy first, take things slow, etc. I had no issues with it and was exclusive with her the entire first year, even though we didn't do anything. Well, recently, I found out that back in college, she hooked up with some random guy at a party after meeting him the same night. Nothing crazy, just typical college stuff, I guess, but it hit me weirdly. I never judged her for having a past, but the contrast messed with my head. Like she hooked up with a stranger immediately, needing a full year of emotional intimacy before having any sex with him. You see the difference between alpha seed, beta need. You see the difference between making rules and breaking rules. Women make rules for men that they deem to be beta males, and they break rules for men that they deem to be alpha males. Okay? The top shelf guy, she'll break her rules for him all day long. She'll do anything, right? Totally different story when she doesn't see you in close proximity to the top shelf. That's just the way things are. Again, guys, the key to getting what you want out of relationships with women: be as handsome as you can possibly be as valuable as you can possibly be. And I'm speaking more to the older guys over the age of 30, 35 or so, because it matters more in that arena. If you're younger in your 20s, you just have to be hot, right? Being valuable, adding to the hotness is like a little bit of an extra bonus, is like a cheat mode. But when you're a younger guy, the hot part is what matters the most to them. He goes on to say, I talked to my sister about it, and she straight up said something like, why are you dating someone who didn't value enough to do what she did with a random guy on one night? Have some self-respect. I tell guys all the time, my dudes, have some dignity for yourself. He says, I love my girlfriend, but now I feel extremely stupid and naive. I gave up sex for an entire year and now having massive regrets about it. And my sister is saying self-respect. Sorry, this little thing over here is covering up some of the words. Really stung me. I don't want to slut shame my girlfriend or weaponize her past, but blah, blah, blah. Sort of ends at that point. You see what I'm saying here, guys? Okay. These are very, very different requirements depending on where she is in the phase of her life. In her youth, in the college years, in the party years, where she was hooking up with dudes routinely. I've heard stories of women banging like 20 guys over a few nights on like a long weekend trip somewhere. Not that uncommon. I'm not saying it's every gal that's out there. I'm not saying that every gal that you ever talked to has lied to you, but it's not that uncommon, right? Like, I'm just calling a spade, by the way. Let me just get rid of that page and that bookmark. This is another really good example. This is one that went absolutely viral, this past week. There's a stand-up comic, an Indian dude whose wife, I'm just going to minimize this for a little bit, whose wife, she's been on a bunch of podcasts, and shout out to Myron Gaines for putting this together, because they were on I think it's called what's his name, Andrew Schultz, and a Cash something or another, a Cash Singh. They're both stand-up comics, and they had the Fresh and Fit boys on years ago, and they kind of got lectured over some of their opinions on the sexual marketplace and women and what women respond to, as you typically do. I see this often. I can go and put something on social media or on Twitter and X, and you get one end of the equation is the white knights and the simps, coming in. And then on the other end of the equation, you get the toxic feminists that come in, and it's like they're just both saying exactly the same thing, right? And that's usually what you end up getting with these plugged-in betas, because that's essentially what this guy, a Cash, is. But let's examine this example over here together. Let's get some volume.
Find men that measure up to him
and
like
drag this back over here. Let's have a listen to what she has to say.
So my husband actually interviewed these red pill guys on their podcast one time, and I won't mention their names because who the fuck even cares? But it was so funny because he actually called them out on their shit.
Here, hi, my name is Justine. I'm a stay-at-home wife, but I don't cook or clean because I don't feel like it. And my husband is a full-time stand-up comedian, and he buys me lots of nice things.
I'm mad at my husband because he's too busy working and being a provider, and I'm over here having all these cute outfits, cute shoes, cute bags, like want to do my makeup, want to go out, and he's nowhere to be found.
Okay, you guys, I have really good news. So for the longest time, I told my husband he couldn't look at me until he got to 1 million followers, because like, who the fuck are you if you don't even have 1 million followers on Instagram?
There's a difference being a scammer and being a hustler. Two very different things.
okay.
I'm a hustler who scams a little bit. I'm not a scammer who
I'm not
hustles.
gonna lie, that was sexy, and that's why I'm actively trying to have an orgy. Like, Akash is such a fucking king. Like, everyone knows he's the best husband, and I don't often find men that measure up to him. And like, Nav completely measures up to him, if not more.
Okay, I have 3 questions about Luigi. Okay, Akash is mad because I call Luigi Bae.
I don't love it. I don't love it. What does Bae mean?
Bae is like Bay is like means like
Get it out. Figure it out.
like bay means like when you call someone like honey.
All right, so we'll pull that out of the screen. There was actually a few other clips that came up, but essentially what this guy Akash and Schultz did was they were lecturing Myron and Fresh about their views on the sexual marketplace, which are accurate. You know, I've known Myron since 2017 or 18 or something like that. He used to be in my community, and I mentored him very early on. What he talks about is accurate. But this Akash guy just gave him like the run through. And then he also had the balls to go on public record saying, my wife's a virgin. She's a good girl. She's respectful. None of the stuff that you guys say is accurate or true. And yet there's podcast clip after podcast clip. And I can't play like the really bad ones because there's ones where she's talking about like basically having guys run a train through her when she was in college. And she overtly lied to her husband, saying that she was chaste when they got married. I think he was 32. She was in her early 20s. And that story, of course, changes as soon as you give a woman a White Claw and a microphone and some lights to talk to. And she starts singing like a canary. It's one of the best and worst things that ever happened for guys and gals is, you know, you give a girl a microphone and a camera to talk to in front of a bunch of people, and she just loves talking about her sexual exploits in her youth. And this guy Akash just got it completely wrong. Dude got lied to badly, and he owes Myron an apology for that nonsense. But you get the idea. So long-term requirements for guys will change dramatically. So we talked about their party years in their youth and their 20s and how that can change as well, depending on when they have time to party. I think all women go through a party phase, whether it's after divorce, whether it's before marriage. Sometimes during the marriage, women will do it. It's not that uncommon there as well. But, you know, plenty of women will marry early, raise kids, and then, you know, divorce in their 30s and try to dive back in the sexual marketplace. One of the frustrating components of hypergamy for a lot of unplugged men to accept is that a 30-year-old woman that is now finished with her party years and looking to settle down and start a family all of a sudden has a lot more rules and requirements for men, as we just pointed out in that Reddit post. Her biological clock is ticking. She'll make guys wait longer. She'll avoid doing things with guys that she's making wait longer, that she didn't make guys in her youth wait for or deny them, right? I've often said that if you express to a woman that you have a certain interest, let's say that there's something that you like in the bedroom, and then she says to you, yeah, but I don't do that. In your head as a guy, you have to add with me to the end of it. So when she's like, yeah, but I don't do that, then add in your head with me, because she will be willing to do that or has done that with guys prior in her youth. Trust me on that one. Okay. Okay. We talked about the interrogation and the questions earlier on. Post-divorce return to her party years. Again, I'm not going to read all of these in extreme detail. I want to make sure that we get through this so that we get time for some Q&A as well. And I have the Tom Brady bit. And let's talk about the time of the month. So women's ovulatory shift goes through menstrual, follicular, ovulatory, luteal changes. And that all happens in a monthly cycle. I think it's a 28-day cycle, if I'm not mistaken, if I got that number right. Now, when a woman's approaching or is at ovulation, she's far more outgoing, sociable, energetic, and she looks for stronger and more alpha traits in a man. Whereas when she's in her menstrual phase, she's more fatigued, introspective, emotionally sensitive, and her preference for men shifts to softer and therefore beta conforming traits in men. Let's talk about birth control, because that's important when it comes to hypergamy. Most birth control for women's hormonal. Pills, patches, injections, hormonal IUDs. the vast majority of birth control for women is, generally speaking, hormonal. There's some non-hormonal options like copper IUDs, condoms, obviously. There's an app that I've talked about before, which pairs to an Oura ring called Natural Cycles. That's my recommendation at this time today. That might change in the future. But essentially, the vast majority of stuff that women are doing to maintain infertility so that they can be promiscuous and have unprotected sex with guys ties into hormonal birth control. The problem with that is hormonal birth control, and there's all these pathways with estrogen and progesterone and pregnenolone and all this sort of stuff, but all of these pathways are manipulated, and it basically tricks her body into thinking that she's pregnant. And that's why she generally doesn't get pregnant. It's like 99% effective, right? As long as they take it, or they're on the injections or the patches or the hormonal IUD or whatever it happens to be, as long as they're consistent with it and their blood labs and their hormone panel is consistent, then their body is tricked into a state of pretend pregnancy, which is, guess what? Close to the phase of their ovulatory shift where they're not interested in the alpha males. They're not interested in high testosterone cues. They're interested in more things that tie towards introspective, emotional sensitivity, fatigue, and softer, therefore more comforting traits in men, beta men. So the problem with hormonal birth control as it relates to hypergamy is, if you're in a relationship with a chick, you meet her, you're dating, you go through, the typical 2 or 3 years of dating, the vetting, let's go to the reception place and figure out how we're going to have this wedding, who we're going to invite. This entire time she's on hormonal birth control. And then you go and get married, and she's like, I did it. I got the photographs, I got the videos, I got the ring. Let's go and get off hormonal birth control and have babies now. And then she does that. And then she comes off the birth control. And guess what? Her cycle returns. She starts dropping eggs. Ovulatory shift, menstrual, follicular, ovulatory, luteal phases start to return. And then her hypergamous interest now all of a sudden shift, because the guy that she got married to, that she thought that she liked, when she was tricked into a state of pretend pregnancy where women typically like softer, more agreeable beta men, plugged in beta men, now she's ovulating. And guess what? The guy that she got married to doesn't seem as appealing to her anymore. And that's, I believe, one of the reasons why a lot of these relationships or marriages tend to break up around the time she comes off birth control or after the kids come, right? Because now she's not on birth control. She's got her kids out of the way. She realizes the guy's a dork and she doesn't want to stay with him. And she realizes she can take half his shit and half the house and get alimony and child support and not have to put up with his ass either. And then she'll move on. So that's one of the most eye-opening things I think you guys need to be aware of when it comes to the notion of the puzzle that's 1,000 pieces when it comes to hypergamy, because it's very, very significant. And women choose guys differently. One of the other things that you should be aware of is a whole girls' night out thing. There's apps where you can track your chick's cycle. So if you're in a long-term relationship, she's asked you for your commitment and you go and give it to her, there's apps that you can track her ovulatory shift. Whether you choose to use an app like Natural Cycles for birth control or use just a regular period tracking app, you should know when she's on her period and when she's ovulating. And you need to be very careful about a chick in your life that asks about things like girls' night out when she's ovulating, because that's when she cheats on you, right? That's when she's looking for the high testosterone cues. That's when she's like, oh, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. And they make up some shit in their head. And, that's just how it goes. So you got to be super careful with that. Anyway, I get in a lot more detail in the book in that area of it. We talked about hormonal birth control and hypergamy. I don't need to read that part. Fame. Let's talk about fame a little bit since I have that in here as well. So women, certainly from an evolutionary standpoint, are drawn to men who display traits associated with success and dominance, as these traits could ensure better survival for any future offspring. Famous individuals, by virtue of their visibility and influence, often embody this high status archetype. Fame implies that many people admire or value an individual, which can create a halo effect Women may find famous people attractive because their popularity serves as social validation, signaling desirability, and we know that women want what other women want. That's the significance of hypergamy and fame. Now, in the book, I talk about the odd case of Tom Brady and Gisele Bündchen. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Another Brazilian, by the way, Brazilian supermodel. Same story with the Kaká and the ex-wife, which I'll move on to next. But I spent more time trying to figure this one out because this is one of these puzzles with many pieces to me that didn't really make a heck of a lot of sense. And it kind of violates a lot of the notions of the puzzle of hypergamy. You have a quarterback. He's tall. He's handsome. He's successful. He's accomplished. He's won trophies and rings and all this great stuff. Men want to be him. Women want to be with him. And then we have this supermodel who decided to divorce Tom Brady. And people go, well, if Tom Brady couldn't do it, what chance do I have? If Brad Pitt couldn't do it, what chance do I have? And, you've heard the story from all like the hardcore black pillars, like if so-and-so couldn't do it, what chance do I have? Well, here's my assessment of the Tom Brady story. So I'm just going to read this out. I don't read much word for word in this book. I kind of breeze over it. I want to leave it for you guys, but I put a lot of thought into this, so I'm going to give it to you. So Tom Brady's a world-class NFL athlete who was married to Brazilian supermodel Gisele, but their 13-year marriage ended in October 2022, a year after meeting her Brazilian jiu-jitsu instructor, Joaquim Valente. This left many men who understand hypergamy somewhat confused. Why would Gisele leave a handsome, famous, and influential 6'4" world-class professional athlete worth over $300 million for an unknown, less attractive, 5'11" Brazilian jiu-jitsu instructor who's only worth maybe $1 million or $2 million in comparison? I verified all that. It's a very significant and important question to ask. Why would she leave top shelf guy for average kind of dude who's on the sexual marketplace, not that significant compared to who she was married to? To fuel the controversy further, 44-year-old Gisele had Joaquim's child approximately 2 years after the divorce from Tom. So she already had 3 kids with Tom, hooks up with Joaquim, divorces the husband, and then has another kid with him at the age of 44, the ripe old age of 44, which is dangerous. It's just not a good idea in most cases. But anyway, let's keep carrying on. When Gisele was probed why she left the marriage, she indicated contempt for Tom. I've said this many times. Contempt is a clock that ticks down to the end of most relationships. It doesn't just happen in love type romance relationships, in business relationships, in office dynamics, and a partnership. It doesn't matter what we're talking about. If one person expresses contempt for the other, it's done. Okay. Don't waste your time trying to win them over, trying to convince them. Just fucking get rid of them, honestly. So let's talk about the contempt part. Contempt for Tom returning to his football career for one more season. Tom's supposed lack of involvement, this is quote unquote lack of involvement that she stated, in their children and apparent sacrifices that she made for the benefit of Tom's career. Now keep in mind, Tom Brady was still capable of playing the sport, which he was world class at. Gisele, on the other hand, who is a 44-year-old former supermodel. She's still very attractive for her age, for 40s. But let's be honest, it's on the decline fast at that point. So there's really not a lot, in my opinion, that she would have sacrificed. Tom made loads of money, influential, opened the doors, brought her 3 beautiful children, blah, 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 right? So let's carry on. Men should be aware that contempt is a clock that always ticks down to the end of a relationship. One of the key indicators that a relationship is beyond saving, as the respect required has vanished completely. Women will bang guys that they hate as long as they respect them, right? Like if they have respect for a guy, they'll sleep with him. When there's contempt, that's essentially disrespect. You're just about done at that point. As I stated earlier, hypergamy is a puzzle with many pieces. In this case, Gisele arguably had the best man she could ever get in Tom Brady. And by using the conventional definition of hypergamy, she appears to have downgraded when starting a romantic relationship with Joaquin. Personally, I think it's because Giselle already had 3 beautiful children, a greater net worth than Tom, which she did. I verified that. I found that absolutely surprising. But she was worth more than $300 million, more than his net worth, and more fame from her modeling career. Arguably, she had a larger following on social media and more fame from her modeling career. I've never heard of her personally. I grew up in the area of like Christy Brinkley and stuff like that. I'm older, obviously, but apparently she was more famous and more wealthy than Tom Brady. And the wealth and prestige of Tom Brady wasn't significant enough to keep her glued to the marriage. She didn't really marry up per se, but for a woman of her status and beauty, it would be nearly impossible for her to find a man to marry up to, especially in her 40s, as her beauty and sexual market value was on the rapid decline. Joaquin would have been unfamiliar and therefore new to her. There's an important concept when it comes to attraction and retention with women and the newness of things. One of the things that I talk about in this book, The Top Shelf Man, is managing the 3 IDs: proximity, familiarity, and exclusivity. And I'll cover that separately. I don't want to spend a lot of time in it, but for her, the familiarity and the amount of proximity that she had to Tom, I don't know if he was sexually exclusive to her or not, but the fact that she was so involved in his life and knowing the day-to-day intricacies of it, women just get bored of shit. Guys get bored of shit too. Like I get bored of cars too. Like the McLaren was bombshell when I got it. You get bored of it after a few years. The Porsche, the 911 Turbo, bombshell when I got it. Then you turn it, then you tune it, then you do the software and all that cool shit. Bombshell again. Then you get the Spider RS. Holy shit, mid-engine with a race car engine in it, topless, bombshell. Everybody gets bored of shit after a while if you spend too much time with it. You give a kid a brand new shiny toy, they'll play with it for a couple of days. They're all excited when they unwrap it around Christmas time. And then because of proximity and familiarity as well, it's a human thing, they just get bored of it and they sort of cast it aside. So there was some novelty or unfamiliarity with this guy, Joaquin, and therefore new to her. But another underlying element of hypergamy is hybristophilia. This is an important one that you do not hear a lot of people cover. Hybristophilia, which is a paraphilia, which is which is where a woman experiences sexual attraction towards men who have the capacity for extreme violence. We saw in that video when Akash Singh's wife was talking about pining for Luigi, the guy that shot that pharma company CEO. You can drag the progress bar back and you'll see it, but she's lying there in bed talking about how hot, and she called him Bay, which pissed off Akash Singh. Hybristophilia is a very strong pull for women. It only exists in women. It doesn't exist in men. There's no guys that get turned on by women that are dangerous. It's only women that get turned on by men that are dangerous, have the capacity for violence, have dispensed with violence, etc. This is why you see story after story after story of women falling in love with guys on death row. It happened with Jeffrey Dahmer. It happens with every single guy that's incarcerated. Even this Luigi dude, there's lots of video footage of women lining up, waiting to hear about this guy in trial. What's happening? Why? Because he had the capacity for violence. He stalked the guy that he claimed was a piece of shit and shot him and murdered the guy in cold blood. Jeffrey Dahmer, all of these other accused killers, hybristophilia is a very real thing. And it's paraphilia. So this condition is often associated with an interest in dangerous individuals, and it's why we see women chase after incarcerated convicted murderers with their frequent jail visits and love letters. We just talked about that. Women love men with a capacity for violence. In the setting of Joaquin's BJJ dojo, while Giselle was experiencing her relationship-ending contempt for Tom, Joaquin seemed to catch her eye. It's an odd outcome for sure, but if I was in Tom's shoes and cared about the marriage and the family unit, I wouldn't have even let my wife train with a male Brazilian jiu-jitsu instructor in the first place. There's video out there on the internet of her rolling with this guy, Joaquin. It's not a sexual thing. Obviously, jujitsu's, combat sports, the guys that practices, it's the art of folding clothes with somebody in it, essentially. So you're in close proximity, you're rolling on the ground, there's flips, there's arm bars and twists and all this sort of stuff. She's literally rolling on the ground with this guy that is a professional instructor that could snap her in half like a stick if he wanted to. And of course, he's taken her on to train her in BJJ. Interestingly, they got introduced because Giselle wanted to take the kids to learn how to fight, and she was introduced to this Brazilian jiu-jitsu gym, and that's where the kids trained. And then at some point, she thought to herself, look at this guy with my son. Maybe I should roll around on the mat with him as well. And that's when shit started getting weird for him. Anyway, no good could come from a woman you love rolling around on the ground with another man, even if it is in a combat training setting. He could have easily prohibited it and recommended that she find a female Brazilian jiu-jitsu instructor as an alternative if she was really that passionate about learning the sport. They certainly could have afforded it. It wasn't about the money. I'm not going to read any more of this chapter, guys. I want to kind of switch over to the Kaka story now. Again, if you haven't got my new book, it's on Amazon. Top Shelf Man. It took me 5 years to write this book. What I've been doing over the last several episodes is I've been essentially giving you some of the ideas that are in this book, kind of on an expanded basis, in some cases on a summarized basis. But this reads very, very well. I am going to read it in my own voice when I give you the Audible version, but you can currently get this on Amazon in paperback, hardback, and Kindle. The holidays are coming. Get a bunch of copies. Give them to your brothers, give them to your cousins, give them to your uncles, give them to your dad, give them whoever needs a copy. You don't need to have the first book in you already, although it'll make a lot more sense, but it's a masterpiece. You guys are going to love it. So let's do the Kaka thing, and then we'll take some call-ins on this show. I need to hydrate. Give me a moment here. Anyway, hypergamy is a very, very interesting thing. Very interesting. I'm obviously not giving you all the details, and it's really something that you could spend hours or days sort of diving down different rabbit holes as it relates to different types of equations. But when you start to understand it as a guy and you unplug from their comforting lies and you're no longer a plugged in beta male and you start to level up in your life, in your world, you're going to start to understand these things a little bit better everywhere. And this is what my goal is. This is what my aim is for you guys, to help you understand these components. So I prompted AI over here. I don't mind sharing this on the screen if you guys want to follow along. Grok AI search. So I prompted AI with the question of, what contempt did Kaka's wife show for him in the marriage, and why did she leave? If you want to get to the bottom of anything when it comes to a breakup, whether it's romance, relationship, marriage, business partnership, ask where the contempt was. That's the key to the whole thing. So Caroline is the wife. Caroline Silicos, pronouncing that name probably completely wrong. But anyway, the Brazilian footballer Ricardo Kaka and his ex-wife Caroline, who were childhood sweethearts, married in 2005 and have 2 children together before announcing the divorce in 2015. So they got married. They divorced 10 years later. They've maintained an amicable co-parenting relationship since then, with both remarrying. No credible sources report Cilio showing overt contempt, such as sarcasm, disdain, or disrespect towards Kaka during their marriage. Instead, accounts describe her as expressing general unhappiness rather than personal attacks on him. That's interesting, because usually at some point, given the microphones and the cameras and the podcast interviews, at this point, maybe because it was 2015 and this was prior to like the big rollout of like video podcasting and stuff like this, she didn't have the opportunity. But there was no overt contempt expressed prior to this divorce. No personal attacks, nothing like that. No sarcasm, no public disdain. So the reported reasons for the divorce are, she has not publicly detailed specific instances of marital conflict, but Kaka shared his perspective in a 2024 podcast interview reported by, there it is again. There's a podcast interview that reveals it. Reported by outlets like the Daily Mail and Sport, according to him, in these 3 bullet points. She decided she no longer wanted to be married, citing unhappiness and a sense that something was missing in the relationship. Who is this guy? Maybe I should do this. Let's go and show our buddy over here, Kaka, because maybe you guys don't know who I'm talking about. Share screen. And that's one over here. So this is the guy over here. This is the quote unquote happy couple, you know, when they were together. And over here in this post, it says, I did everything that I could to save my marriage, but there's something that I learned. You can't force somebody to stay with you if they've already decided to leave. In 2015, my wife told me that she didn't want to be married anymore. I clung to the idea of fighting, of showing her we could get back what we had. I read a book that proposed a 40-day challenge to win back your partner. I did it twice. Gifts, letters, unexpected surprises. But in the end, she just kept repeating, I don't want it anymore. It was a brutal blow. As a Christian, divorce wasn't in my plans. The Bible says marriage is forever. But what do you do when the other person no longer wants to continue? I fought to the end until I understood something is key. Love can't be forced. Love is a daily choice. And if somebody stops choosing you, you have to learn to let go. That's sage advice, you know, at the end of the day. I mean, he did what the typical plugged-in beta male would do. Read a book, do a 40-day challenge, gifts, letters, unexpected surprises. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I commented on this. This strategy for every guy that's plugged into lies about relationships is always love her harder, bro, buy her more gifts, bro, write her poems, bro, pray more, bro. Goes into things like figure out her love language, do a 40-day challenge, that kind of stuff. None of this works. In fact, it's some of the worst things that you can do when a woman's checked out. Now, let's go back to this grok thing over here. I'll leave this up here on the screen so that you guys know who we're talking about here with this unhappy couple. But here on the AI resort, so she decided she no longer would be married, citing unhappiness. Something was missing in the relationship. She attributed her dissatisfaction to the marriage itself and requested a return to Brazil to live unmarried. Kaka described her as feeling he was too perfect for her, noting that she acknowledged he never betrayed her, he treated her well, and provided a loving family. However, this perfection reportedly made her feel inadequate or unfulfilled. A viral quote from April 2024 attributed to Celio, this is the wife, Kaka never betrayed me. He treated me well, but I was not happy. Something was missing. The problem was he was too perfect. How can you be too perfect as a guy, right? I think we're going to get into the itties here in a second. Spread widely on social media and news sites, Celio quickly debunked this exact phrasing as fake on her Instagram, clarifying that it misrepresented her words. Despite this, the core idea aligns with Kaka's accounts of her feelings. So purportedly, she never said that, but that's the general gist, the vibe that was summed up. Now, Grok AI went to Contempt next before it sort of closes, so I'll read this bit and I'll tell you what I think. In marriage psychology, contempt involves mocking or belittling a partner, which erodes the relationship. No interviews, no articles, no public statements describe her as engaging in this, neither towards Kaka's character nor his efforts as a husband. Some online discussion, this is things around like Reddit and stuff like that, frame the story through a quote-unquote red pill lens, suggesting her unhappiness implies underlying contempt for nice guys. However, this is speculative interpretation, not based on evidence from Celio or Kaka's rumors or rumors of Kaka's infidelity with actress Isis Valverde. Usually, if a woman's going to destroy a marriage because the guy cheated, she'll blame the guy and say he cheated and that's why I'm destroying the marriage. I'm still a good Christian person. Reputation management, right? Like I've talked about reputation management many, many times before. So clearly that wasn't the issue because she would have pointed to that, which she didn't. The couple's split appears to be tied to growing apart after years of relocations. Milan, Madrid, due to his career rather than toxicity. Kaka emphasized his religious struggles with divorce, saying he exhausted all efforts to save it, but respected her decision. Overall, the divorce stemmed from Cilio's personal sense of unfulfillment, not documented contempt. This refers to a different Kaka, cultural. Oh, this is culture. There's actually a cultural fictional character as well. Anyway, so that's that. So I mean, like the question then goes, why did she leave this guy? Like, what was so bad about him? He's handsome, he's accomplished, he's an athlete, he's fucking rich, he's influential. Men want to be him. Women have clearly thrown themselves at him if there was notions of him cheating in the relationship. So why would she leave? You guys put your best guesses in the comments there right now. I'll tell you what I think it is. And here, I'm going to grab the call-in link. Copy, call in and ask a question. And you guys can drop questions in the super chat, or you can call in, whatever you guys all want. Let me copy this and pin it to the top of the live chat. But you can click that anywhere and hop on in the show. There we go. Let's put that there and boom. And pin that to the top of YouTube. Okay, so that's easy to do. So I think this comes back down to the three idiots, if I'm being absolutely honest. The three idiots are that powerful. Now, you're not going to hear about the three idiots anywhere else. I've read just about every evolutionary psychology book. I've read all the red pill shit. Been in the mana swamp. I've seen it all. I haven't heard anybody specifically talk about proximity, exclusivity, and familiarity. And I've said this in the book. I think this is what happened over here. The more of that she has, the more familiar she is with you, the closer she is in proximity to you, the less interesting you seem. There's also the notion of exclusivity. Exclusivity is the one that's going to bug the most people. I understand that. I get it. I covered it in the book. I hit it from every angle so that it makes sense from any logical perspective. Anybody with a logical, rational approach to thought will get it. Not everybody is there, but anybody that's got a brain in their head will get it. So I'll put it that way. But this just happens. I've said this before. The only couple that I know of, and I've gone through this exercise. I've gone through Facebook contacts. I've gone through the contacts on my phone. I went through this exercise as I was writing this book. I'm like, who do I know that has a really good marriage that's been together for a long time and they still genuinely, enthusiastically love each other? And not just that, but they also genuinely, enthusiastically have monkey sex still. It's really, 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 really rare. Go through the exercise yourself. Take a look around. Your family, your cousins, your friends. As more time progresses in that relationship, the less interested they are in each other, the more likely it is that you are to hear contempt. When the contempt happens, it becomes more frequent and it becomes more contemptuous, if I can put it that way, right? They express more resentment for the other person. And I think that it's just one of the things that you got to learn to manage. One of the components of this second book that I've written, I'm going to call it the second volume here. One of the components is it deals with a lot of the elements of more of the retention and the management phase of the long-term relationship. The first book was more just about random shit that seemed very interesting that I thought guys need to be aware of, that were sitting in their blind spots. The second volume is more about the management and the retention phase and understanding proximity, familiarity, and exclusivity, and as it applies to the long-term relationship. It's really important. I'll dedicate another show to that because that's a totally different segment of the book, but I'll get into it with you. But I think that's what happened over here. And that's why she's saying stuff like, he was just too good. He was too nice. He was too perfect. Women cry on social media all day long about wanting the perfect man. He's got to be this tall. He's got to make this kind of money. He's got to look like this. He's got to have a perfect head of hair. He's got to dress with some style. He's got to drive this kind of fucking car. His family's got to blah, blah, blah. And it's like the sweethearts from high school. And this guy's a genuinely good looking guy. Like if you look at their marriage photo over here, put it back up on the screen. He's not an ugly dude. Like in their marriage photo over here, they're both good-looking people. I mean, you know, Brazilians are kind of weird. Like they're either really good-looking or they're just not, right? They're like 4s or they're 10s, right? You know, he happens to fall in this category. He's a little bit older over here, obviously, you know, when they got divorced, but you know, world-class athlete, really good-looking guy, successful. Why did she leave him? I think it's the itties. I think it's like those pieces of the puzzle that not a lot of guys contemplate. Or, you know, maybe you're just going to chalk it up to like the standard, you know, narrative of, hey, bro, she wasn't yours. It was just your turn. Anyway, that link to Collins there, guys. I got DL Saint in the house. I haven't seen him in a while. Let's see what he's got for us. What's up, buddy?
What's good, brother? How you feeling?
It's been a long time since I've heard from you, man. How you been?
Man, I should have listened to you, man. Now I understand the mental swamp and what it means. You told me 2 years ago. You tried to warn me.
What happened, man?
It's the same old stuff. It's just you know, most guys in the manosphere, mental swamp, they're not there to do the work. They're there to make noise. But before we really get into it, telling everybody, man, you got to start with this one. You got to start with this one, guys. I will get your new book ASAP, and you know, I got a couple books I'm reading right now. But I'm definitely going to get that in there. Hey, Rich, this is unpaid endorsement, guys. Rich and I we haven't met in person, but we know each other through these YouTube trenches. This is, in my opinion, the best book I've read for what it is. Guys, make sure y'all go and get it. I mean, it's just eye-opening. Even for dudes like me, players who know what they're doing, this book right here sums it all up, man. So well done, brother. I can't wait to read the next one.
I think that you're gonna love it because, in my opinion, it's way more of a masterpiece. So I can't wait to hear what you think of it once you've gone through it.
Oh, bro. I mean, I'm always screaming about Unplugged Alpha. I mean, I'll be dropping a link in my chat, telling guys go read that book. It'll answer your questions before you come to me. So, I'm gonna end with the Akash thing, but I wanted to ask you this first. I saw your interview. Was that an Australian news outlet that brought you on? Talking about masculinity?
New Zealand, yeah, that was a New Zealand news outlet. I was actually going to break that down because they did cut out quite a few elements of it that didn't end up in the final cut. That, like, I thought it was a live show, but they actually recorded it and they cut it up and they edited it. Yeah, why?
Because I watched that, and you know, shout out to you, bro. But I understand why they come after some guys in the red pill world, man, or swamp, whatever you want to call it, when we have these conversations. But you know, Professor Scott Galloway, definitely not red pill. Hardcore mainstream media, blue pill, whatever, they're starting to come after him. And I have my ideas on why they're doing this, but I'm curious as to know your take on this. Why is it that it seems that mainstream media wants to really come down hard on anyone who's trying to help young men, boys, become proper men?
There's us and them, and they don't want the population to know and embrace a lot of the conversations that I have, that I write about, that I podcast about, the shit that I talk about in my car, because it goes against the grain. It goes against their narrative, right? Like, anytime I do like an interview for a news show or like a mainstream media guy, like I've done Danica Patrick, I've done Chris Cuomo, I've done news outlets, prior to that one in New Zealand that I did. It's almost always the same sort of thing, right? It's like, who hurt you, bro? Like why do you think this stuff actually works? Like, like who does this actually work on? And then there's always like, I'm talking to somebody that's 42 that froze their eggs, or I'm talking to a MMA guy that has his own fight studio that wifed up a single mom, or, it's just like, and then they brag about something like, well, women are really strong and independent. They can do awesome stuff. You know what part they cut out of that interview? So they brought up strong, independent female leadership. And you heard the part about Margaret Thatcher. What you didn't hear in the final cut was when they brought up their prime minister, that Jacinta, whatever her name is, the one with the horse
prime
teeth.
Minister for a day. That one was like there for a couple of days or something like that.
The one during the COVID scamdemic that was always doing this shit. Like, she was on coke, with the horse teeth.
Yes. Now I'm with you.
Yeah, they brought her up as a strong, independent female leader. And I said to them, isn't that the one that locked you guys down for the common cold and made you take vaccinations and stand on dots and wear face diapers and you put people in camps? They cut that shit out.
Because that proves that you know, you were the demon back there. Everyone was saying that was the bad guy, but
Yeah.
now it's like, no, they were right. And the science backs it up, and the truth is the truth, and they don't want it to be out there, man. That sucks, bro. But that's the game.
Yeah, but that's how it
the
is.
game.
You know what I'm going to do from now on? Whenever I do like these mainstream media things, is I'm going to record my own version of it. I'm going to have a camera on my screen so I can film it, because they always seem to edit it down to whatever they feel like the message needs to be portrayed to the public, and they tend to cut out like really important stuff that has some gravity to it. But it's at least good that they're willing to have a conversation and say, okay, let's talk to this guy, even though they think that, you're offside or you're crazy or whatever their opinion of you happens to be. But like, I give a fuck what anybody thinks, right?
Real talk, man. And I told Myron this, fresh and fit. I remember about 3.5, maybe 4 years ago. I'm like, hey man, this red pill shit is going to be mainstream at one point. And this is before, fresh and fit went the way they went. It's like, bro, I'm telling you guys could be one of the, go-to folks on this thing.
Yeah.
And it's happened. I mean, it's here now. Like, red pill stuff is mainstream. People say red pill is dying. It's not. You look at what happened with Akash Singh. Like, so I'm a retired air traffic controller. I worked for the FAA for over 20 years, right? I got out in 2020. So don't ask me about this last shutdown. I wasn't a part of that. My last shutdown was 2018. But Akash, I'm also a stand-up comedian, right? To have like comedy offset the stress from air traffic. I was in LA. I came up at the Comedy Store, and I've managed to carve out a pretty good reputation. I'm good at what I do. Akash, Andrew Schultz, and all those guys were coming up. I got so much respect for what they have done. A lot of people don't realize how hard it is to make it in that business. Entertainment is tough enough. Comedy is like the redhead stepchild of entertainment. To get in there and do well, man, you gotta give people their due. I tip my hat to those boys. But this is why men need to have game and understanding. Akash screwed himself. You fucked yourself up, right? There's no getting around it. You're right. And man, that fresh and fit interview just didn't age well at all. We knew it wouldn't. It's like, come on, man, just a matter of time. Even Andrew Schultz in that original interview was saying, hey, 10 years from now, we'll probably be like, hey, these guys are right. It took 5 years, right? Or whatever, like 3 to 5 years. But guys, you got to be careful out here, man, because the right woman will absolutely change your life 1000x what you're doing. But if you choose poorly, it's like that in Indiana Jones, man, at Last Crusade. You choose poorly, but you turn to stone, but to dust. And, like, who hurt you? Like, the family law system hurt me. That's who hurt me. You know what I mean? It ain't her. So that's why I'm still here. Mental Swamper, no, I'm still going to be here helping guys push this message. And I'm pushing as many people as I can towards you, because you're not out here getting caught up with the bullshit like the Coach Greg Adams, Andrew Wilson thing. It's like, damn, we lose so many great opportunities to help men, but then something like that happens and everyone jumps in, wants to choose sides. It's like, bro, fuck all that, man. Listen to what they're talking about. Marriage is messed up. Protect yourself.
Yeah, I caught some clips of that debate, and like the notion of debating today is fascinating to me. Like, I genuinely think that Andrew Wilson is probably one of the smartest guys when it comes to like attacking from a perspective of logic and reason when it comes to debating. He's also made some very interesting personal lifestyle choices in his relationship that, I mean, I'm not going to throw shade at the guy, but it's like, dude, single mom, 3 baby daddies,
right?
Christianity's nice and all, but then we got like Blair White today on social media, who's like announcing that she's embraced, he, whatever, the transsexual dude, Christianity. It's like, no wonder people don't take a lot of religion seriously, today. Like,
I mean, if you want to go red pill, bro, there's nothing more hardcore red pill than those religious texts. I don't care if you're talking about the Torah, Quran,
the original ones,
the Bibles. Yeah, there's nothing more hardcore red pill than that. And I mean, I'm not a very religious person. I was forced, like, as a kid to grow up, so I see the church for what it is. I stay away from the church. Guys are like, oh man, they got all these girls in the church. Go get you a good girl. I'm like, man, that's like a 304 hospital, bro. Don't go in there. Like,
no.
you're gonna get saddled up with, again, not to throw shade, but you'll find yourself with a woman who has 5 kids and 3 baby daddies, and they want you to come clean up the mess. If that's what you want to do, I tell guys, I say, listen, I put the information out there. I'm gonna give you the game. If that's what you want to do, fine, but don't come back here and crying to me or anyone else, or like, you're black pill now. Bullshit. We told you what it was, bro, and you went out and did it. That's on you. That's kind of my take on it, man. But fuck, man, like the thing with Andrew, even when he was that debate, if I looked at that, I covered that on my channel as well.
Mm-hmm.
Even if he had what he wanted, if our reality was religious based and the church has to sanction and all that, I'm like, bro, you wouldn't be married. The church would not have sanctioned that.
No, it's not a sanctionable marriage because you're not allowed to do that shit.
You're
According to
not.
their rule book, like trust me, like I was married. Like I sat through the church stuff and I got lectured by the priest and I had to do like the marriage course and all that sort of stuff. You know, I know what the rule book says.
Right. And like the foul electrician says, like, don't get mad at me. Them's the rules. Like this is what you signed up for. And if you don't like those rules, don't play with it. You know, and last thing, and I'll get out of your way.
Yeah.
I was and that same show I was talking, we said, hey, our way to fix marriage, like maybe we should have marriage contracts. Like you get married, it's like a, like 18 month, 36 month.
Like a lease agreement, like you take the car in and after a certain number of miles, you can either buy it out, extend the lease, or you can trade it in for a newer model.
Yeah, you got to re-up. And I got that idea as a young guy from an old sci-fi TV show, man, called Earth 2. They covered it in Earth 2. It was in this TV show from like the late 80s. Yeah, and it was like, they came from the old Earth. They had a new Earth. And there was a couple that was married and it was like the hot chick, right? And they were like, it was time to renew. And it was like, are you going to renew your marriage? And like, oh, let's do it the old way. And let's just stay married forever. And it was like, there it is. There's that blue pill message that I didn't know at the time, of course, but that was the programming, the white knight thing, the Disney fairy tale thing. And of course, they lived happily ever after. But come on, man, you want that term to, hey, I got 6 more months with this chick. Imagine if Akash, if his wedding, term was coming up in 6 months, he really wouldn't care. It's like, cool, I could walk away from this thing.
Yeah, I know. It's just unfortunate, man. It's like the guy's screwed. He's screwed either way, depending on.
Yeah, he's fucked.
Depending on what he's going to do with it. Probably
New
nothing.
York too. He got married in New York, bro. He's fucked.
Just screwed, whatever.
Well, yeah, watch that video with they interviewed James Sexton on the Flagrant podcast. If you haven't seen it, check that out, bro.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Oh, bro, it's eye-opening.
I don't watch too many like of these podcast interviews and like manosphere swamp type creators. You know why, right? Like I actually have a chapter in this new book on the manoswamp, breaking down a lot of the reasons why, but it's just like I find myself more interested in like ancient history and like why did they build the pyramids that way and how did they quarry the stones and bring them there and shit like that. I've already gone through all the evolutionary psych stuff. Like I get it. I think I understand it. And there's also stuff that you just write it off like, it is what it is. That's just one of those fucking things you just chalk up as one of the pieces of the hypergamous puzzle that you can't fit in there.
Yeah, bro. Please tell me how they moved them big fucking rocks in Egypt way back when.
I don't know.
Tell me
man.
how they did
I don't think that the ancient Egyptians built that fucking thing. I think they found it.
I think they did too.
Because the technology that was used to build those fucking giant structures, and then there's also the shit that's underground now, which you're starting to get into, which is really fascinating.
And that's just Egypt. What about down to like Central South America, like all the way out in Asia? Like these things are everywhere.
They're all very similar too. They're all constructed in very similar ways when they shouldn't have had any contact, 10,000 years ago. But
hey, when you do your tinfoil hat show, let me know, bro. I want to watch that one. When you do your tinfoil hat show, I want to make sure I watch that one.
All right, man. I'll see you later.
All right, brother. Peace. Thanks.
See ya. I got Moore here who is going to pop in. Let's see what you got for me. Moore, what do you got, buddy?
Hey, Rich. How are you? I was live.
Good, man. Yeah. What do you got for me?
I have heard recently about the mass layoffs in North America, and I was a bit surprised because, not surprised, but the majority of them were actually women. So
say that again. The what in North America?
Layoffs. Mass layoffs.
Okay.
So the majority of them were actually women doing some bureau jobs, and apparently the market is adjusting to that. So,
it's been said that a lot of jobs that liberals and lefties and a lot of women have today are really like adult daycare. It's jobs that are created to keep them busy doing something during the day, so it almost feels like they're doing something productive. So yeah, there's an element of that to it too. There's also like BJ, the acronym, it's not for, what you think it is, but it's an acronym for bullshit jobs. And, you'll find when you take a look around at like banks and retail stores in certain places, the vast majority of jobs really don't even need to exist. They can either eliminate them completely, they can replace them with AI or automation or a robot or something like that. But yeah, you're going to see more and more layoffs. I mean, you already have Elon Musk talking on social media about robots eliminating poverty, offering solutions to things like surgery, where he's saying, his Optimus robot's going to be more accurate than a surgeon and be able to provide the service, for free, basically for everybody. So yeah, you're going to see a change in there's definitely going to be a shift in the marketplace when it comes to employment and people working and what they get paid. Universal basic income's coming for sure.
Yes, and the second topic is regarding the red pill. I think that the books that were produced or written in this regard have kind of missed a very important component, which is macroeconomy. If you
Macroeconomy?
Yeah. So everything, when you analyze the economy, like nowadays, everything is overpriced, and it's overpriced for a reason, because the structure of capitalism did not adjust to women going to work actually. So look, our like rent is very overpriced everywhere in the world. You take for instance cars, everything is overpriced. Everything is overpriced not because the economy, like someone is like pushing the buttons, but because the capitalism is a commune of accumulation of thousands of years, and actually did not adjust to women going to work, and that's the real problem.
I'm not sure if there's a question in that, or you're just making a statement.
No, I'm just saying that probably the red pill in the future would be good if we could analyze it from this perspective, like why everything is overpriced, why everything is losing value, why is everything is not the way it was before, because
Well, I mean, as
I
far
see
as
it from this side.
pricing models go, like economics in a free market is pretty straightforward. Prices go up when there's greater demand, and prices go down when demand starts to subside. Prices have always gone up and down over time. They like during the COVID period, I remember when things like boats and cars and saunas and all the luxuries that we wanted to access, cottages and lake houses, the prices for all those things went up because there was a strong demand for them. And now here in the cottage market, where I live in Ontario, some of the sub $2 million cottages have lost 40 to 50% of their value, and people are in over their heads. So it's just like these things move with time. I mean, pricing is always based on demand, and if there's demand for something, the price will push up.
Yes, you're right. Thank you, Richard.
Sure.
Have a
Thanks,
nice
man.
day.
See it. Again, guys, the link, if you guys want to call in and ask a question, I'll go for another up to 40 minutes. There was a comment there that I saw about antidepressants. I'm going to drop the call-in link. It's also pinned at the top of the live chat on YouTube. But Shiny here says, my ex broke up with me right after she went off antidepressants. Is there a similar response women have hormonally, like birth control? SSRIs are very interesting because they tend to numb the individual. What usually happens when women go on antidepressants, and let's just do a quick search here. What percentage of women over the age of, let's go with 30, are on antidepressants in North America, which is where most of you guys are sort of watching? Is that sort of like collects the data? I'm going to say it's something like 2 and 5, if I recall correctly. Let's see where we're at here. Age groups for women. Sorry, I was wrong. It was 1 and 4 is the highest rate amongst all demographics for women. But that's in the age of 40 to 59. What it does is it numbs them. Everything, like there's less of reaction to shit. There's less highs and lows with their emotional moods. They tend to put on weight, and they have less interest in sex. which usually like just doesn't really work well for the guy in a long-term relationship. So there's no hormonal change. Like it doesn't modify, I'm aware, but you're dealing with like 1 in 4 over the age of 40 that are on antidepressants. I don't know that you're going to have a good experience with them. I mean, anything that's going to change the way that somebody responds to inputs and then they come off it, they're going to go to another version of themselves. It's almost like they're bipolar or they have multiple personalities, if you know what I mean. People argue, well, you're saying women have multiple personalities when they ovulate and shit. And they kind of do, because when they're ovulating, they're chasing the hot dudes. When they're menstruating, they're looking for more comfort and security and, peace sort of thing. Like they're not looking to get all dressed up and show a lot of skin and, go out and party. So there's that. I got Travis over here. Let's see what Travis has for me.
Rich, I have a question for you. I think it might be the first one that you ever declined to answer on the show.
Okay, go.
Your exit plan out of Canada. Can we talk about that and anything you're putting together or any thoughts?
Yeah, I've talked about this quite a few times, actually. It's been asked of me because I've been mentioning it over the years. I've got family obligations here for a few more years still. I don't see any improvement in the Canadian marketplace. In fact, let me just check over here real quick, because the Liberals submitted a budget today, and that should have called an election if they didn't pass it. Do you know what happened with that?
They passed it.
Oh, they passed it? Okay, so we're fucked until 2029 now. Unless they pass another budget that calls for an election. But either way, like, I don't see things changing here. I see it still trending in the same direction. People don't, not people. The vast majority of Canadians vote for free shit. They want more government involvement. I've taken a look at all the bills that Liberals have passed in Parliament. None of them have anything to do with lowering the cost of living, reducing taxation, improving personal freedom. In fact, everything they've passed is about monitoring us and restricting personal freedom and limiting what we can and can't do on social media. So we're heading in the direction of the United Kingdom. The UK has 20,000 arrests on an annual basis now for social media posts. You can go look it up. 20,000 police records every fucking year for social media posts. And a lot of those people end up in jail. They end up spending time because they said something on social media that hurt Karen's feelings, or the government deemed was inappropriate, or marginalized somebody or something like that. So I think you already live in Canada, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So, like, you're in the same boat. So what are the options for guys like this? Well, we can go south. We can go down to the States. Tennessee looks nice. Texas looks good. I'm kind of not that interested in Florida. There's always I was having this conversation with a buddy the other day, and we're like, why there's so many dipshits in Florida? He goes, yeah, it's the mold. It's the mold, and because the humidity and the fucking hot, moist summers and stuff like that. But yeah, there's a couple of places in the States that look interesting. That might be an option. I like the gun laws. I like the stand your ground laws. Everything costs less. Taxation's lower. But they still have the woke environment that exists in Canada. It's just not quite as bad there right now. I guess we'll see what happens with the midterm elections in the States and what direction it goes. But if the US starts moving back to direction of like logic and reason in a way that looks like Poland or Hungary, for example, like, I think that in Europe, if you look at all the Western European countries, they're all fucked with the exception of Poland and Hungary to some degree as well. And I was watching some videos on social media of Tommy Robertson sort of cruising around Poland with Dominic, I can't remember his name, but he represents the European Union and the European Union Parliament. And he's a guy that's like, be like Poland, like re-immigration. We don't let people in. It's like, and you see them walk through the Christmas market and everybody looks Polish and it's clean. And there's no beggars and there's no graffiti and there's no crime and there's no diversity barriers to stop people from driving their cars through crowds or anything like that. It looks nice. The women are attractive. The men are dressed well. I don't know, dude. Like, I don't have an answer. Like, I've got to go on a walkabout and figure it out. I got an invite to go to Dubai this winter to hang out with some cool people over there. So maybe I'll check that out. But Dubai's fucked in the summer. You can't be there when it's 40 something degrees in the summertime. I don't know, dude. I really don't know. Like, I got to figure that out though.
I'd be very interested to hear it. I think a lot of people would be too. Like if you did a full episode, I know you did one on how you would fix Canada if Rich Cooper was prime minister, which I did enjoy. But if
Thank
you
you.
did one on Rich Cooper's exit strategy out of Canada or something along those lines, I think that'd be a very interesting show.
Yeah, I mean, I'll put out the information, when it's all done. I'm not sure that I'm going to announce. What's that ding? Is that on my end or your end?
That's on my end. Sorry, I'm
okay.
out there.
I'm wondering if it's something new built into StreamYard that I've never seen before. Yeah, like I'll definitely share the information. There's a lot to really contemplate. I've had David Lesperance on before, who's a immigration lawyer. He's got some great episodes on my channel. Raphael from Wealthy Expat, I've had him on. I've had Andrew Henderson on. I've had a lot of conversations with guys, and I have a lot of friends that have left countries like Canada, and they live in, objective freedom. Like one of my good friends, he lives in Tulum, but he's a tax resident of Barbados. So he charters a private jet with his buddies that are all tax residents there. They fly there for their annual meeting once a year. They have to stay there for the day. They fill out some bullshit paperwork, and then they leave. And then they can live anywhere else in the world that they want. So there's different ways to do it. I mean, you could be a citizen of the earth and get a sailboat and just fucking sail around. And, there's any number of ways to sort of do it. I guess it really depends on your lifestyle and, what you're looking for. I want to remain to some degree in proximity to the Toronto area because I've got a lot of family here and shit. But I certainly don't want to be locked down to its borders and confines as it exists today. Like, who knows what happens with the next scandemic? Who knows if, guys, I could disappear next week because of something I said on social media because of a new bill that they passed in legislation, and they can lock you up like they're doing to people in the, in the UK. Who the hell knows? But it's a slippery slope, and it's a difficult slope, my man. It's a tough one.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the answers as always, Rich.
Anytime, man.
See you later.
Talk to you later. Link to call in, guys. Pinned in the live chat of YouTube. I'll drop it again in all the chat. I got a super chat here. What is that? More. So that was the guy that I was talking to earlier. $20 or €20. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Might be moving close to Atlanta. Not in Atlanta. It's a woke city. Yeah, that's the thing, man. Like, I do a lot of driving around, on the East Coast or the Appalachian Mountains and all the different states, and it's like there's some messed up towns in the U.S. Rich Cooper couldn't be PM because the women would mobilize the beta males to come after him. Perfectly described in Psych Hacks. Yeah. I had a guy that posted on the community tab of the Entrepreneurs and Cars channel the other day, and he was accusing me. Here, let me see if I can find it, because I can deal with that right now, unless we get any more call-ins, but I'll deal with that right now. He was accusing me of not doing more to solve the problem. So I posted here, you follow me on YouTube, but you have disagreements. So I like to engage, on this post tab, because I like to get video ideas and see where your guys are heads at. And it's like, if you disagree with me on something, then what's your better solution? So this guy said, extend family units, where is he? 50-50. Not able to find. Maybe I'll do an entire show on this thread, because there's so much in here. Where's the guy about the government and changing the government? Watching sports. Social distract. Discrete blank recommendation. Stay away from single moms. Oh, here he is. Okay. So this guy, David, said, you correctly diagnose the problems with society, but your solution is just to sit back. You could actually run for office and change the laws. You don't have to be governed by liberal women. However, they are willing to run for office, and so-called alpha males don't seem to have the balls to run against them. You can't win if you don't play the game. So I'll deal with that right now, because that's a really interesting comment. And respectfully, I disagree with you, and you're wrong. So there's a politician in Canada who's a leader of a party called the PPC. And the People's Party of Canada has no seats in Parliament. They have no representation in the House of Commons. They've never been elected in any jurisdiction, in any riding, anywhere. Max Bernier, during the last two election cycles, was leading the party, And prior to the election, I had him on my podcast. You can go watch those podcasts. They're on my YouTube channel. I think they're on the Playing to Win playlist on the Entrepreneurs and Cars channel. Just search for Maxime Bernier or Max Bernier. You'll find it. And his party is most closely aligned with my views and opinions of the world. Like that would be the platform that I would run on. More of a libertarian, lower taxes, keep your hands out of my fucking pocket, stay out of my life, stop telling me what to do, give me stand your ground laws. In case somebody breaks in my house, I can shoot him in the face and protect my family. Reverse a lot of the dumb stuff that the liberal government's done over the last 10 years. That kind of stuff. So that's the platform that I would run on. But nobody votes for his party. They get no seats in parliament the last 2 elections. And I did my best to help. I'm like, I like this guy. I contacted his media team. I said, let's get him on my podcast. Let's try to get some more eyeballs on his story. He went down to see Patrick Bet-David. I messaged Adam Sosnick because I met Adam when I was down in Florida when I did his podcast. And I texted Adam. I said, you got to get this guy on your show. The election's coming up. It'll be a good show. PBD will love the guy. And I got him on PBD's podcast too. Nobody voted for him. There was not a single PPC politician that won their riding. So what's the point in fighting a war that you can't win, right? Like that's the argument that I have. That's why I'm, you know what, kick up your feet and just watch them burn the fucking thing down. What I can control is I can draw a perimeter around the people that I care about, my family, my friends, my tribe, the guys in my inner circle, my community, stuff like that. And I can do things with them and, we can hang out. We can kind of set up our lives in such a way that, we're as anti-fragile as possible and there's limited amount of risk exposures to some degrees. You don't worry about the stupid shit. And, when I drive down the street and I see a big trans flag rainbow painted on the road, I just kind of ignore it. It's whatever now. Some people turn off the traction control and they do a burnout on it for fun. But that's the reality of the world that we live in today. So why do I have to fix it for you? Because you want it fixed, right? Like that's the argument that I have. Like you think that I have some supreme power or some leverage that you don't have? Why don't you run for fucking parliament? Why don't you run for politicians and you fix things if you feel that strongly about it? I've talked to politicians. I lobbied on Bill 55 from 2010 to 2012-ish or so. When I was running my debt negotiation business, because the banks and credit card companies introduced legislation that was disastrous for the industry and for the Canadian consumer. And we provided case studies to politicians on the liberal side, on the conservative side, on the socialist side, on the NDP. The argument for the industry to exist, to be able to offer these services, to protect credit ratings and save people a lot of money. And they still passed the bill anyway. In fact, the lobbyist told me at the time, we might as well call this bill the Protect Banks Profit Margins Act at all costs, because that's essentially what the legislation did. It had nothing to do with offering freedom to the consumer, to protecting the consumer's credit rating, to saving them money, to giving them purchasing power. All it had to do was protecting the profit margins of the financial institutions that issue credit. I've seen the code in the matrix. I've popped the hood and I've looked under the hood and I know exactly how everything works. And it's not worth it. You can't win until I start seeing people vote for logic and reason. And they didn't even vote in the Conservative Party, right? They didn't even vote in the Pierre Poilievre, whatever the hell his name is. He's kind of goofy. He kind of screwed up too. But his policies are at least okay. They're reasonable. Like he offered a decent reduction in income tax. He offered a greater deposit to your tax-free savings accounts to Canadian if he was elected. He offered to roll back carbon taxes if he was elected. And he didn't get in. The Canadians voted for Trudeau's successor, which is that goofy Mark guy who got booed recently at the Grey Cup or at a football game here in Canada by the entire stadium. So that's where things are. And until I start seeing people in general unplug, as I talk about, embrace the reality of the world and take some real steps forward to fix things and vote for politicians that are about accountability and responsibility and personal freedom to the individual, you're going to keep getting what you've always gotten, which is bullshit. Really high taxes, no personal freedom, inability to maneuver, infractions on use of money, infractions on use of social media and broadcasting yourself. And that's just the way that it is. And that's not going to change anytime soon. So that's why I don't give a fuck. I just don't. I don't see the point. I see it as a waste of time. Yeah, they're all sellouts. Like, people don't vote for freedom. They vote for free shit. Does Canada have an APAC equivalent? I think, sorry, I'm not tied up in the Jewish Palestinian shit. I don't give a fuck about the either. Like, that's the other thing that blows me away is like the whole lobbying and this, that, and the others, within government. I don't fucking glass it. I don't care. Glass the Middle East. It doesn't matter. I'm not on a side with that, but I wouldn't be surprised, because I've seen the strong arming with lobby. Like, basically, if you have money, if you have deep pockets, and you're a billionaire or you're a financial institution or you're a lobbyist group or anything like that, you can modify policy to the benefit of your industry. And he who has the gold makes the rules. That's the golden rule. He who has the gold makes the rules. And that's just the way that it is. Yeah, all presidents are part of the same club, and we ain't in it. It's not our club. It's their fucking club. Like, if I were to vote, like, could you imagine me running for the Prime Minister of Canada? You could, like, who's going to vote for me? Have you been to Canada? Have you driven around the roads here with all the flags painted on the roads and all the fucking murals and all those weird tampons in men's bathrooms? You think they're going to vote for a guy like me that talks about accountability and responsibility and, taking ownership for your life and doing the work and not making stupid choices and not, complicating it unnecessarily? Not a chance, man. Wahlberger, what do you got, buddy?
Yeah, I mean, Canada is cooked. It is cooked. It's run, Alberta, run. They're not letting us do anything that we can do production-wise. We're sitting on a gold mine, per se, of oil and natural gas. And the fact of the matter about Carney is that his whole motivation, his whole deal is that, and he came out on a podcast last year just before he took office and said that he gets things done. And what he gave as the prime example, his words, is he said, I took world investment in net zero from 5 trillion in 3 years to 150 trillion.
What's net zero? What is that? Like something to do with carbon taxes?
Yes, net zero investment. Just net zero investment on from different banks and such, world banks, and that type of so he took it from 5 trillion to 150 trillion. And he also added a nice little point to that, saying that that number is 70 times greater than the Canadian economy. So you tell me who he's obligated to. What is his motivation? It's to net zero.
Well, he's a globalist, right? But I mean, like, the whole notion of like the environment and global warming and all that stuff, it's nonsense. I mean, there was some information published yesterday in the media about Antarctica gaining something like 100,000 like new acres of ice, like pushing out over the ocean, which means that Greenland's probably covered with more ice than it's ever been before. It's all nonsense. It's all to like control and manipulate. I mean, we saw it with the scamdemic. Stand on your dots, wear your face diaper, take this shit over here. Otherwise you can't travel. That's what it's all about.
Well, absolutely. And he made some serious investments, obviously, that people and agencies and banks put in to scale 150 trillion. And it was going south worldwide. Very few places in the world now really respect the carbon tax situation. It's proven to be poor, but he's in over his head. He's already his head is on a pike somewhere for somebody, right?
Even Bill Gates, who was bullshitting about the climate emergency, admitted recently that it's not a big deal.
Absolutely. but he's got too much money in it. There's no turning around for him anymore. So
Yeah, he's a real problem. He's going to be bringing manufactured meat to your fridge soon.
Oh, it's bad, man. It's bad. So and the fact of the, like, so we've got Danielle Smith in Alberta.
You live in Alberta, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm in
you're
Calgary.
like the last bastion. Maybe like you guys will leave and join the United States. That might be an opportunity.
Oh, we've got to do something. I mean, we can.
I'll tell you what, man. Trump needs more Republican conservative voters. He would be wise to offer citizenship or a fast track program to citizenship to Canadians that are registered conservative voters that would support his platform and increase the voting base, because all the Democrats had done was they imported a bunch of people that vote Democrat, right? Just walk across the border. You know, Texas would put up a fucking razor fence, whatever, and they'd bring a forklift and lift it up so everybody could walk under it. Like, you got to play their game. You know, you got to play their game.
Yeah, it's already being done here. Have you heard of the Alberta Prosperity Project?
No, what's that?
APP. So it is a separatist entity, which it's already garnered.
Political party, or
it's a political party, but it's entirely different, because we're saying we've got to just break away from the whole federal system, because even our conservative representation here is still privy to maintaining that federal connection. And they're saying we've got to just get it out, done. We've got to start anew. And they are meeting with the upper echelon of the Trump administration. They've been down there multiple times. So that is, so at 18% of people are saying that they are up for separation in Alberta.
Well, just attract them down to the States, you know, like if you steal 18% of Canadian citizens that are conservative, which are mostly paying into the tax economy, right? Like the net contributors are those guys that are working, that are successful, that are paying the highest taxes. If you attract those down to the States, offer them a fast track to citizenship, Canada will fall apart within a few years because the tax base will basically disappear. And then you'll be able to buy it for fucking nothing.
Oh, yes. And our payments.
Canada's a resource-rich country. Here's what's so stupid about the people that run Canada. It's one of the most beautiful resource-rich countries in the world. We have what? Fresh water. We have lumber. We have oil. We have gas. We have natural gas. We have minerals. I'm missing something there, but like, what does the Middle East have? Like, you know, Dubai's got oil, and nobody pays tax there. And it's a bastion of, like, you know, the free market, and there's tons of people coming in there with monies and building the economy there and fucking doing well for themselves. And it's like, you know, Canada's just like, yeah, fuck all that shit. We'll just leave it in the ground. We're not going to touch it. We don't need to make this place better. We need to just tax people harder, right? And put more tampons in men's bathrooms. Like, that'll solve everything.
Yeah, and that is the ideological play that they make. But in real life, every day, if you're an everyday person, the conservative way to roll and just doing things the right way and not playing these silly games and searching for subsidy and big nanny state taking care of you, then you're doing well if you don't go that route in a very practical sense. It's proving correct every day, but it's these other idiots like across the country, and it is eastern part of Canada who's doing this. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. And just the voter base on the Liberal side is just too big. I think it's gotten too big. There's no way to turn it around. So run, Alberta, run is what I say.
That's my point, man. Thanks, Wahlberg.
Cheers.
See you, buddy. Yeah, that's my point. Like, I don't until you start seeing a change in the voting patterns, which you haven't seen in the last several elections. Nobody's going for Max Bernier's libertarian policies. There's re-immigration ideas, lower tax rates, more personal freedom, better gun laws. Nobody votes for it. They vote for liberals. Elbows up. That was the liberals sort of fucking mantra during the last election, was put your elbows up. And all these geeks were dancing around with their elbows up. And it's just like, what do you want me to tell you? What do you want me to tell you? I'm the minority. I don't like. I have no pull. I have no ability to modify, change that, or anything like that. It is what it is. Let me see what else we got over here in the live chat. Let me quickly drop a little plug here for my community. So on the top left of the screen, I've been doing a lot of work over the last couple weeks on this now that it's under new management. So on the top left of the screen, there's a QR code. That'll take you to the School of Unplugging. The point of this community that I've built over here is really to let you continue your journey. As you know, you might have enjoyed it in my book or my books, in the podcasts that you've watched, in the videos you've seen of me in my car, and to help guide you through the unplugging process, because most people need some kind of assistance with it. I'm rebuilding this thing over here. So let's tap on the classroom tab over here. So I'll show you what's under the hood. So I'm adding all the forum recordings to attend the 1% forum. I've done them the last couple of years back to back. It's about a $3,000 admission fee to get there. I've recorded everything. They're all on these USBs over here, and I've been uploading them to, and this one over here, this one's huge, the school platform. So to give you an idea, if I click this over here, you'll see the talk Orion Taraban gave last year. We got Mike Piazza, who's the MLB Hall of Famer catcher. There's lots and lots and lots of really, really good classroom material there from the forum recordings. That's like $6,000 worth of value. Then I've got the School of Entrepreneurship, which you can buy in the School of Unplugging. It's a small upgrade. Then I'm arranging the new material under the 7 spokes of a high value man: unplugging, looks, money, status, game, frame, captivation. I've also added my LTR vetting guide, which is a 3-hour course. You'll see on the calendar tab, I've got 3 calls weekly now. So early morning, noon, on the weekends. There's also fitness and health calls, and all of those are all recorded. So if you can't make it live, then the recording's there, and it's less than $50 a month. Okay. The value alone with the classroom material, and then you add in the Zoom calls that I'm hosting. I mean, if you book me privately one-on-one, I'm really expensive. But if you show up for these Zoom calls, you can get group coaching sessions with me for less than $50 a month. Now, I'm only going to do this for the first 150 members. We're at 123 right now, as I see the counter over here. So if it's something that you're interested in, go and check out the School of Unplugging. It's in the description. It's on the top left of the screen in the QR code. It's just on the school platform. It's a really cool platform. Works super easy, very intuitive. There's a discussion board. I'm not going to show you the discussion board because, you know, I want people to maintain their privacy. I don't want you to see their names or the photographs or anything like that. But it's all private. So if it's something that's interesting to you, to connect with me on a more intimate basis, to get more support, to get some Zoom calls, to get some behind the scenes content like 1% forum talks on that platform, yeah, hop in there and support what we're doing over there. It's just going to improve. And the other thing too is I've had a lot of people ask me to put together events for it. I don't coordinate events. That's not my specialty. I'm the kind of guy that likes to show up as it's already arranged. But I'm working on a virtual assistant that's going to be able to put those together. So in the future, for those that are like, hey, you know, I've liked hanging out with you at Algonquin Park. If you've been at that event before, there'll be another one. Actually, I've already got the best weekend colors booked in September for 2026 with CK. So you'll get an invite extended to that. There's lots of other cool things that we're going to do. There's also higher level tiers too, right? So if you're like, you know, an EO, YPO guy, or an entrepreneur, doctor, lawyer, surgeon, like that kind of stuff, I've got the 1% community. You know, you can gravitate and sort of move up to the higher tiers as you need to, but lots of really, really good stuff happening under the hood there. Oh, I see there's a couple of new members that joined. Thank you for joining the channel. That's awesome. Anything else here in the chat that I've missed? Pin comment to call in. Yeah. Okay. That's it. I think we'll leave it at that, guys. I'll do another chapter next Monday night. there's lots more to cover. And guys, I got so much content now that I got to put out. It's just ridiculous. Yeah, my plate's super, super full, but I got loads and loads of really, really good content. I'm going to make it as valuable as I possibly can. I got a long drive tomorrow. I'm going to go do a podcast. So one of the speakers at my event, he's about an hour out. So I'm going to make a bunch of videos in a car tomorrow. So I'm going to be cramming lots of stuff on that channel. And I also got my own personal channel too, that I'm doing car content on now as well too. So I just uploaded a video the other day that my editor's putting a thumbnail on, getting into detail the new 992.2 Turbo S. So if you like cars, you'll find that on my social media links as well. My dudes, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me tonight. There's a lot of live viewers. It's been fun chopping it up. Bring questions to these live shows. They don't necessarily have to be on the topic that I'm on. I'm just working with, the stuff that I'm trying to get out over here. But you want to talk politics, you want to talk unplugging in other areas of your life. Unplugging itself is one of the 7 spokes of a high value man. You do the work in those areas, and I will hold you accountable. You will get more of what you want out of life. It's as simple as that. It's not about running for office, changing the political scope or the environment. What it is about, really, in today's day and age, is accepting the world for what it is, the reality that we live in. Yeah, it's kind of fucked up. Surrendering to the reality of what those problems are that you can't change, and then take control of what you can change, and then build a perimeter around those people that you care about, and you change things together, within your own little community, within yourselves, within your family, if it's in, one of my own personal communities. That's what we have control over. We don't have any control over people voting for silly government policies like putting tampons in men's bathrooms. It's out of our control. Let them do it, whatever. Go in there, have a piss, laugh at it, and leave. Simple as that. Anyway, let me run the outro reel. I just found out that so I'm going to ask you guys' opinion about this, because I just found out they got sounds, right? So you can, somebody calls and it says something stupid. Check this out. Oh, I didn't even hear it. Is this thing working? Oh, okay. There you go. Anyway, there's a whole bunch more that I can download. I just noticed that StreamYard added those today. Let me hit the outro reel, and I'll catch up with you guys next week. All right, guys. If you enjoyed that podcast, make sure you visit my website at richcooper.ca to learn more about my courses, my book, The Unplugged Alpha, community, or booking me for private coaching. Also, if you are a Canadian with $15,000 or more of credit card debt, and what you are doing right now isn't paying off the balances, then visit totaldebtfreedom.ca and hit get a free quote to see if you qualify to settle your credit card debt for less than you owe today over the next 48 months. Make sure you check out the top pinned comment on YouTube for all the links mentioned during the show. Peace.